First question that I want to ask everybody is to tell me a bit about yourself, your time in service, and your family, as well as what you are currently doing for work.
Thank you. Wes Williams, born and raised Kansas City, joined the Navy in 2006, was a hospital corpsman, also FMF corpsman, so I was attached to a Marine Corps unit. Did one deployment in Iraq, got one on a boat, and another one to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Aside from just being a combat medic, I was also a psychiatric technician, and so went from trying to find the bad guys in Iraq to talking to the bad guys in Guantanamo Bay about how they were feeling. So that was kind of a unique situation for me. Stayed in mental health ever since I got out in 2011. So I've worked with at-risk youth until I kind of led me here to Veterans Community Project, where I'm the Director of Veteran Services. And so I work with all the vets that are living inside of our tiny houses and, some of our outreach services as well.
Brian Meyer, CEO and co-founder here at Veterans Community Project, but I spent 5 years in the Marine Corps. I joined in 2001, just a couple weeks before 9/11. It was a brilliant move. And during that time, deployed to Iraq a couple times. I was a crew chief on a helicopter, which is a fancy word for door gunner. Born and raised in Kansas City. After the Marine Corps, moved back here to Kansas City. Somehow found myself with a law degree and a pretty great job, but was very much still connected to the veteran community in Kansas City. Met some other like-minded people, and we came up with this kind of crazy idea of Veterans Community Project, and at a certain point just threw the whole law thing to the side and dove into this and been doing it ever since.
My name is Ben Hendershot. I joined the Marine Corps in 2004. Spent 4 years in the Marine Corps in the infantry, and did two deployments, and that's what I did in the Corps. And as far as my family goes, I have a daughter. She's 9, divorced, and I am the VP National Construction for the Veterans Community Project in Kansas City.
I am Michael Folke, and I served in the Marine Corps before 2001, 9/11. I joined in June just to kind of get out of Oklahoma because it's, such a wonderful place. I went to, I did 8 years in the Marine Corps, 3 tours in Iraq, and came home and went to Missouri as a motor T instructor. That's where I met my wife. We've been married for 13 years. I have 3 boys, 10 and 8. And yes, I can do math. That's twins. I've been working for the VA for 7 years. I do the outreach portion, what's called the Vet Center. Its primary role is to help veterans adjust from combat stress. And it's been around for 40 years and helping Vietnam vets and just to develop from then.
Matt Barresco, spent 9 years in the United States Army. Actually wanted to be a firefighter. I didn't even want to join the Army at all. My entire family was Navy and Marines. I went to a Marine Corps recruiter first, and it didn't work. He sucked. So I went right next door to an Army recruiter. I met Sergeant Spurry, and I ended up doing 9 years. Like I said, I'm not a firefighter. I knew I wanted to help people, whether it was, fighting fires or, helping other vets, because, like I said, I did 9 years. So I actually ran into Brian. He told me about Veterans Community Project and what it was. We at a local bar, we drank a lot of Pepsis together, and we talked about the future, and they had this crazy idea to build tiny houses out here in Kansas City, and I thought that sounded like a pretty cool idea, and I want to get involved. And never built a house in my life, and now I've got 49 of them underneath my belt, which is pretty awesome.
My name is Russell Sander. I was a combat engineer for 12 years in the United States Army. Did 2 deployments in Iraq, 2 in Afghanistan, route clearance. With these 3 guys here, first one anyway. Sorry. I didn't join until I was 28 in 2004, so I knew exactly what I was getting into. One of the 2 things I wanted when I went into the recruiting offices is I wanted to go to Iraq, and I wanted to go to Germany. I went to Iraq right after basic. Within a month of basic, I was in Iraq, and right after we got back from Iraq, the whole unit moved to Germany. So I got my 2 wishes. Yeah, I spent 12 years in. I was gonna go career, but it didn't work out that way because some switches got flipped around in my head, so it wasn't working out right. So I had to get out. I don't do anything right now. I'm 100% disabled, retired. Spend a lot of time at home. Just recently reconnected with these guys this past year. That's been great. But that's what I do now.
My name is Vincent Morales. My life before the military was that of many typical urban youth. I come from a pretty good stock, I would say. My grandfather was a World War II veteran and then a POW. Spent the remainder of the war in a POW camp, came back home and raised 7 children working for the railroad. My mother and father both come from the Air Force, and I decided to rebel. I don't necessarily think it was just me. I think it was just kind of society and things that I was doing. And I ended up dropping out of school when I was 16. My daughter was born, my oldest daughter was born when I was 17. And for a good 3 years, kind of as Russ mentioned here, I did the same thing. I kind of scraped and worked odd jobs, hustled a little bit of dope. I learned that I can't sell weed because I was my own best customer. So that one, I said, I kind of got to change some things around in my life. And after the events of 9/11, as Russ said, same sentiment, I wanted to do my part. I wanted to change my life. I knew the military, if I could get my life together, would allow me to change that. I had a pretty good amount of warrants out. I was dodging quite often, and my grandmother was gracious enough to have faith in me and to pay my warrants off. Total about $5,000. She paid my warrants off, and I joined the military at the age of 21. And as these gentlemen here to my left and my right, I was a 12 Bravo. I did 13 years total, 3 deployments, 2 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan. And during that transition from active duty to reserves, I came back and had that same struggle I think that we all talk about, that we all go through. Where do I belong? Where do I fit in society? It was when I went back to Afghanistan that I realized that I did have something to offer society in a gift manner, and it was the ability to teach and to mentor. When I mentored the Afghan soldiers, I had a reason to get up every day. So I came back here and I said, how can I translate that skill into something that can make me happy every day? I went to working with veterans. And through that, I met the group of co-founders as part of this organization. And as it grew, I would like to think I'd met almost every veteran in Kansas City, I'd like to say. And that's where we are all strong together.
Robert Buck. Hi. Before I went into the military, right out of high school, I was like 19. So I didn't have any, too much problems beforehand. Was in for 3 years, got hit with an IED in 2005. And just been kind of chilling ever since, not really doing too much except helping Morales here out whenever he needs it.
Life before the military, actually. I'm the first generation of Americans in my family. My family migrated from Liberia, West Africa. My dad and mom ended up in America because my dad played professional soccer, and he played for the Olympic team, the African Olympic team. And he and my mom came over to America because he received some type of scholarship or whatever to play for the Cosmos, which was a popular American soccer team back in the day. And I was born within months of him with his contract in America. He ended up getting a taste of fame, so he and my mom split right away and actually left my mom. My mom was still working on citizenship. and she ended up not really receiving her citizenship because he had just deserted her. She ended up being homeless for some time, and she mustered up some money to send me back to Africa to be raised by my grandmother. I was about maybe 9, 10 years old when I came back to the States to live with my mom. And I joined the Marine Corps. I was the guide in boot camp. I was meritoriously promoted out of boot camp. I joined my unit, 2nd LAR Battalion, which I guess because of my GT score, they were actually picking individuals to be in like a light armor reconnaissance type unit. I ended up joining that unit, and through that unit, they ended up sending me to drill instructor school. And when I came out, for some odd reason, that structured life was so much in me that I ended up, I was a corrections officer on Rikers Island for some time. Then I ended up being a corrections officer in Essex County, New Jersey. I worked for a gentleman, Joe Clark, from the movie Lean on Me. And around that time was when 9/11 happened. And I forego that to go back into the military, feeling patriotic. And I ended up joining the Army this time around, doing it my way. This time around. And right. I was a combat engineer in the Army also. Right. Right. And I did 8 years in the Army, and I deployed three times. And my third deployment, I ended up getting hurt. And coming out of that, I guess all my issues started out of my final deployment. When life sat still for me, because before then I was so productive, I was on the go. But when everything sat still, that's when life started going in the opposite direction.